Hello, welcome to the Breck Buzz. The program's going to tell you all about what's happening in the Town Council of Breckenridge over the last month or so. And I got two wonderful guests with me today, Mayor John Warner and Council Member Gary Gallagher. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you.
We've had some fun times in January after having a little bit of a hiatus for most of December.
Yeah.
But we kicked it off with a fairly important, very important future analysis of our water system. And Gary, you sat on the water task force. Why don't you kick it off by talking a little bit about what the study was intended to do and some of the conclusions?
Sure, Tim. Thank you. Well, pretty much during 2013, the task force, as well as town senior staff, was tasked with the responsibilities of taking a look at the current water facilities and water production system in the town of Breckenridge. We have one facility on the southern part of town, the Gary Rogers Water Plant. Excuse me?
Gary Roberts.
Gary Roberts, yes,
Sorry.
yes, he'd be very unhappy, yes. Gary Roberts. And that was a facility that was built back in the early 70s. It's been upgraded a couple times, and it's doing a terrific job in terms of providing high quality water for the town of Breckenridge. But like with all things that are a little bit older, and with a community that is growing, the decision was made to take a look at not only the growth projections for the existing water district that we service, and determining, at what point might we need more water capacity. So that was done, and depending upon different growth scenarios, in the next few years to several years from now, it's pretty clear that we're going to probably need some more water capacity. Likewise, you always want to plan for redundancy, and we do not have redundancy right now. If something were to happen to that plant, or from time to time, as it is getting a little bit older, it needs to go down for some reconfiguration and some improvements. And a big risk that we've all focused on is the potential for wildfire. And if we were to have a large wildfire in and around the Gary Roberts water facility, we could really have some huge problems with our water, between debris and ash running into the water. We've seen other communities around the state already that have experienced large fires, have had to start importing water. And so when you take a look at all those factors, the decision was made that it was time to really look seriously at a second water facility. And so a water plant study was commissioned. It had several objectives. One was, where would you intake the water from on the Blue River for a new facility? Secondly, where would you actually site the plant? Third, what ramifications, if any, might you be causing by doing a second water plant on the Blue River with anyone else who is currently using the Blue River, and in particular the Upper Blue Sanitation District, so we wanted to be very sensitive to their operations. And likewise, what would the cost of a water treatment facility be, and what would the timing of such be? And all of that analysis was reported out to Town Council a little over a week ago. And at this point, the conclusion was that we probably needed a second water plant facility that could produce up to 3 million gallons per day. The Gary Rogers now produces, it's rated as 5, but realistically, operationally, it's probably closer to 4 million gallons per day. And going forward, as we proceed with this facility, we'd want to do a facility that could also be upgraded possibly to an additional 4.5 million gallons per day. The cost is very expensive. It was reported out. There are ranges of numbers, but let's just make the numbers easy: $25 to $30 million for the water plant itself. And then if ever in the future we were going to connect into outside our existing water supply district to provide new customers, those that might be on wells right now, the county might have some interest in participating with us, as well as some other areas. Those facilities providing that distribution capability would be an extremely huge number, probably twice the number just for the water plant itself. And so we were given different scenarios in terms of how one might finance something like this. A lot more work still to be done, but the first steps have been taken, and I think in terms of the recognition of a potential problem, that we should be moving forward with a second water plant facility. And we have a pretty good sense of where the location of the intake would be, the location of the best plant site, And so some additional conversations and negotiations will need to go forward. And as we do, and the information is available even more directly, there'll be opportunities for the public to get involved and understand exactly what's going on and where it's going on, and where this will ultimately lead. And you know, John's a big advocate of this, as well as several of us on town council, is when we do something like this, it's probably going to be financed. And you say to yourself, okay, where's the revenue? Where can the revenue come from in order to finance an upgraded plant production facility here, which is for the benefit of us all? And so we're going to have to start taking a harder look at our water rates, because that is a natural area. If you're talking about sustainability, match the cost of acquiring and producing more water with ultimately the users of that water. And so that will be a discussion, as well as a debate probably going forward, in terms of sort of fairly matching some additional revenues from our water users in support of the cost of doing a new facility.
Plus spreading it out over multiple generations down the road.
Of course, yes, not putting the burden on the people today, but still coming up with a long-term financing model that's fair and equitable.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the factors that causes some of the cost increase kind of goes back to the old pump back idea,
right,
where in the plant where it's up above town, which is south, gravity takes care of things, but the other way we have to pay for something different than you would normally do.
That's right. If we have our intake down by Lake Dillon, that's 5.5 miles away. It's all downhill, so we have to pump the water up here, and depending on where we position the plant, we have to pump it to the plant, then it has to be pumped from the plant to the town in our service area. So that there are energy costs, there are infrastructure costs, pipeline costs, etc. So it's a big project, but like Gary, I think it's a terrific project for future generations, for us now planning into the future. In fact, in the study, I think they thought we really ought to be contemplating being online by 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's really only 8 years away,
right,
and this is a project that will take probably 8 years to do.
Right. There were a couple other side benefits to this whole deal related to both how we use the Tarn and also how the river operates through town.
Yes, if by taking the water lower in the river closer to Lake Dillon, there's a couple benefits and opportunities. One is that during those times of the season where the river may tend to run a little bit lower, since we're not drawing as much from the Tarn, you can actually provide more water flow into the Blue River, which will flow through the town, and not only will it benefit from an aesthetic point of view, the looks of the river through the town, but also the habitat that uses the river, the fish and the animals that they come up and need the river. So that's a great benefit. Secondary benefit would be also by being able to leave more water in the Tarn, again, because we're drawing closer from not in Lake Dillon, but certainly closer to Lake Dillon out of the Blue River. It provides some opportunities possibly for some additional snowmaking capabilities for the ski resort, and an additional revenue source for the town of Breckenridge, as opposed to letting the water just flow away down. And and as we all know, with global warming, ski resorts more and more are going to need more water to get onto their slopes, particularly early in the season before Mother Nature does it for them. So that would be a great benefit. And the other benefit, we believe, is for the sanitation district, that we actually are providing more water in the river for their dilution. It's one of the reasons that we look to put the intake where it is, just above the Lake Dillon Reservoir, but still in the Blue River, so as to provide them with the most dilution that they could have. If we did the intake further up the river, which we have a right to do under our water rights, you get more into the question of are they having as much ability to dilute? And it's costing us a little bit more to do it where we are, but trying to be good neighbors and work with other users on the river. That's why we said, okay, it would be worth a little bit more money if we put it where we did, because it benefits the river, it benefits the Upper Blue Sanitation District, and possibly gives us a revenue opportunity with the ski resort.
Mm-hmm. This is just the start of a public process. Right. some of the thoughts of how the council you think will be proceeding as they take a look at this. This is the first brush of the study, and obviously we've just got it out on the website and things like that.
Well, the council has certainly been staffed on this, and I think everybody on council embraced this project. I think we all feel like we need a little more information. We need to understand how it will affect the stream. We need to have conversations with the Upper Blue Sanitation District, and then I think we need to get it out there for our community to get their arms around it. We can do that with Engage Breckenridge. We can do that with public forums. But I think the community will welcome, for the most part, this forward thinking and this dissemination of information. It's been very well thought out. It wasn't staff driven. It was driven by a third party, this study. So I think we're on solid ground with this proposal, but it's at the early stages.
So more to come on that, and we will be, obviously the town website now has the report on it, so people can start taking a look at it. We've already planned some meetings with the county commissioners who are potential partners, and we're waiting on setting up some other meetings with partners like the sanitation district. And as John indicated, there'll be some more public information we'll put out to kind of summarize that. If you don't want to, the report is about this thick. So
Great bedtime reading.
Yeah, it analyzes everything from the water quality within the river and the types of plants, the type of treatment processes, all those type of things. So it's fairly comprehensive. So we invite people to start taking a look at it and to, as John says, engage Breck with some of their thoughts and questions. Let's jump to another exciting project. It's about restoring a river.
Right.
We're in partnership with a variety of entities up on the Swan River, which is a part of the property we acquired as a B&B purchase, but also some of the property that's owned by private property owners. What's that all about?
Well, it's the Swan River, and the Swan River, for those of you who are unfamiliar, it is reached by going up Tiger Road to the east, and it splits, it forks, and there's one road that goes off to a little community called Muggins Gulch, or a planned community, and the fork also goes to the southeast into the North Fork of the Swan, the Middle Fork of the Swan, and the South Fork of the Swan. And there's a stretch there that is an old mining community, and I think it's called Tiger. And there have been some commercial snowmobile operations back up in there, sled dog operations, etc. But it's been kind of a wasteland of dredge rock, a stream that appears and disappears, and this restoration in collaboration with a variety of organizations is going to create a sinuous river bed, and a riverbed that allows water to be in it year-round. It will create better riparian habitat with vegetation, and they're also planning on improving the fishery up there. I think there are native cutthroat trout in that area. There are a variety of mammals that habitate that area, and this will work well for all of those animals. It will also beautify that valley, the Swan River Valley, and it's only about a mile-and-a-half stretch that is going to be worked on at this point in time. But it'll be very nice for the river, for the community, and we're getting some cooperation with the Muggins Gulch PUD people. I think the Forest Service is participating, right. Mm-hmm. And Summit County government's participating, and I got to believe Trout Unlimited is going to be real happy about this.
And they're one of the other partners.
Right.
That's right. It's an interesting reuse of a mining material, dredge rock, that's being traded for actual physical improvements out there. Right?
Yeah, I mean, already there has been some sales of the dredged gravel, or traded and bartered for soil and infill, and between private sector and the public sector, and that's kind of gone very, very nicely. And the longer term goals, as John pointed out, one of them is the removal and sale of the gravel that has been dredged, and obviously restoring the river to make it look more natural. And And what we've heard from the Forest Service and others, that this is not only a local model, but it's a regional. It's going to be used as a regional model in terms of a multi-jurisdictional group of entities getting together, from the feds to the state to the county to localities and private individuals, all of whom have basically said, yeah, this is the right thing to do, and we really need to sort of improve this area and connect the habitat and do all the other very positive things. So, and possibly get some money out of it, or
Help pay for some of it, right?
yeah, absolutely. And having visited there last summer myself, I ride my bike out there a lot. I mean, the areas that have been restored, revegetated, removal of the dredge, I mean, it looks just beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful.
Could be a similar thing for French Gulch down the road, you think?
Yeah, I think there's an appetite for that. Certainly our open space group from Breckenridge, the open space group from the county, are both, they're kind of zeroing in on that for a future project. But there's a bit of a conundrum relative to an historic site. We have the Riling Dredge up there, and there's thoughts that may become a national historic landmark, which we have to decide what's it going to take to become a landmark acreage-wise, and what will the impact of a river restoration be on that dredge site. And so there are a lot of answers or questions that haven't been answered relative to how to go about doing that, because we've got a few more moving parts with this National Historic Landmark proposal. I think everybody on council recognizes the importance of landmarking the dredge site. We just want to do it well and do it in a correct manner, and get our cake and eat it too, and restore the river.
Yeah, particularly around the Wellington Oro mine, where we still have some of that mine waste coming in and things like that. It'd be great to have a natural system that treats some of that water. Right.
Absolutely.
So very exciting project, and it's actually going to be being built this summer. So a great one. When you're up there, you'll see some work going on, particularly around that Mug and Gulch area that John mentioned. We reported in one of our previous sessions about the reorganization of the Breckenridge Chamber of Commerce that is moving to a new moniker called the Go Breck. Why don't you talk a little bit about why Go Breck and why was the reorganization? Because just to repeat it again, and then the next step was to actually get going and have that new board formed.
Sure. The decision was together with let's call it the existing board of the Resort Chamber of Commerce, now that we refer to as Go Breck, as well as town council. The thought was, when we kind of got together with one another, that it was really time to simplify and streamline the decision making at the board level, at the policy level. As many of our viewers probably remember or don't, I mean, the town provides almost $3 million a year toward the branding and the marketing of Breckenridge, and we do it through the Go Breck organization. And that has made tremendous strides in the last couple of years in terms of reconfiguring how we market, how we brand Breckenridge, and how we track the expenditure of those monies to be sure that they're being used in a very expeditious and in best practices method. And we've seen tremendous results coming out of that in terms of our visitation, what it's doing for the town's economics, its sales tax, its lodging tax, and things of this nature. But you always believe that you can always improve and raise the bar even further. So the thought was, let's reconfigure the board, and let's get the people that are very knowledgeable in this area in terms of marketing and branding, sort of the best minds in town, to really focus on this and set the vision, set the strategy, so that the staff themselves have some very clear direction in terms of what the expectations are for them. And we will hopefully continue to, the town will be branded very, very well, and our revenues and our economics will remain very strong, which permits us to undertake a lot of the long-term infrastructure improvements that we make in this town for the betterment of the town long-term. So the way it was worked out was the existing chamber, or the new Go Breck organization, they appointed 4 individuals from their existing membership and organization. Town council got to appoint 3 individuals, that being Dick Sauceville and Dick Carlton and Bruce Horry, as well as a town council representative, Wendy Wolf. And the ski resort got to appoint an individual who happens to be their lead marketing person for the Breckenridge Ski Resort. So now we have a much smaller board, 9 individuals, all of whom are very focused and very sharp in the fields of branding and marketing and so on and so forth. And so we're all expecting, like we do in so many other areas in town, that the bar is going to be raised and Breckenridge is going to be brought to the attention of even more people, both nationally and internationally, to come and enjoy all the wonderful things that we have in Breckenridge, whether it's winter or summer or anywhere in between.
And as part of that reorganization, the council committed some extra dollars to help really get that, at least for the next year, to really get that program off and running even stronger than the $3 million.
Well, we did. We committed extra dollars via a request from the Go Breck outfit, and we were willing to do that. We wanted to see this restructuring occur. We also committed some dollars in terms of part of the reorganization included all boat license holders now being members, not dues-paying members, just members. And so we have eliminated the dues structure for Go Breck members. And historically, not everybody was a member of our old resort chamber. And I don't know what the percentages were, but if you went to for example, Welcome Center on Main Street, you really only got part of the story of what Breckenridge is all about, because many businesses were not members. Now, every business can place their 1/3 cuts, brochures, whatever, at the Welcome Center. And around town, everybody has a say in how we are marketed, how we fill the board positions on gobreck.com, etc. So if you have a boat license, you are now a member of gobreck.com. And we think that's a healthier way to show our visitors what we're all about. They'll see the whole menu of what Breckenridge is all about. So we backfilled the dues, and we also reacted positively to this request for extra funds for gobreck.com.
Right. I've heard already some interesting ideas that maybe the Welcome Center becomes a much more important entity than maybe what it's been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, just following up on what John said was, yes, we have a Welcome Center that in the past didn't represent all of our businesses in town. Well, that's been addressed. But I think going forward, there's been a lot of thought given to how do all the cultural arts organizations, as an example, and the other businesses in town, how do they kind of support, complement, and one another? And to date, some of them, I mean, we're talking about the groups like the Breckenridge Music Festival, the National Repertory Orchestra, the Breck Film Festival, the Public Arts Commission for Breckenridge, the Backstage Theater, and our Breckenridge Heritage Alliance, all of which produce programs and events. And depending upon if you want to kind of get a sense of all of them or buy tickets for their different things, you almost sometimes had to go to their specific website. And we realized that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, a guest comes to town, and once they decided what they want to do, have access to it, they should really be able to get the information in one place and purchase their tickets in one place. And if they want to purchase their tickets by walking into the Welcome Center, which is where we want to really start driving a lot of this activity, they can do so. Likewise, we want to be sure that they have the ability that they can do it through the internet. And so this thing becomes very seamless. And to date, it really hasn't been seamless. And so these are one of the areas that everybody is working toward to actually facilitate and make it a lot easier for folks to get tickets to events or to even find out about events and performances around town. And just kind of as an aside, Rob Wolf, our new cultural arts CEO that the town recruited from over 100 candidates, and he started early in January. I mean, this is one of the things that's on his plate, working with Kim and town staff to really get all the organizations to start pulling together so there are centralized areas, whether on the internet or at a Welcome Center, where it really makes it a lot easier for people to get the information and actually make a purchase.
Next incremental step to better customer service and better guest relations.
Guest relations, customer service. I mean, you want to make things simple. You want to make things known, and people enjoy. And at the end of the day, it's all about the experience. You want to give somebody a great experience, and great experience sometimes is the ease with which they can access information and actually the facilities and the events themselves.
Right.
So there's a big push being put in that area.
Great. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the second half of the program, and we'll be talking about a few more exciting things the Breckenridge Town Council has been working on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Breck Buzz. We've been talking about some of the exciting things that have been happening in the town of Breckenridge over the last month of the first of the year, January. The other activity that the council worked on this past month was now a new task force or a new advisory group called the Child Care, and this comes on the heels of the failed ballot issue.
Right.
So, John, we talked a little bit about it with the last month, but now that the council's worked on bringing together some really sharp folks, what do you hope they get done?
Well, a little backstory. I'm going to kind of go back to where Gary left off just before the break. To enhance our visitors' experience, you need a great workforce. And our council, staff, many people in town have embraced the idea of maintaining our workforce here in the community of Breckenridge, or at the very least, the upper Blue Valley. And we feel it's very important to have available and affordable early childhood education, childcare, etc. And so we still believe strongly in that, even though our ballot issue was defeated. So we would like to understand how to get that message out, how to perhaps change the political tenor of that argument, or not, but we would like to underpin our support of childcare with this group of very sharp people who are very interested in early childhood education. So we've created this Child Care Advisory Committee. We had 15 or 16 applicants a couple of weeks ago. We chose 6, and then we put a town council member on that as well. And Lori Best is our lead senior staff member who basically is going to run the committee. And we will likely morph into more like 9 or 10 or 11 people over time, but we wanted people with varying backgrounds. A couple of the members don't even have children, but they are very much behind helping create a affordable childcare environment in this community. One person's a finance person, a couple people are with childcare organizations, and we hope that group, and our expectation for that group is to come up with a way a mechanism to maintain our current good childcare environment. Part of that is ongoing operational cost, and understanding if we're really going to try to think out of the box. Are there different ways to do it? What we have done in the past is have a scholarship program for those people that couldn't quite afford the monthly bill for childcare, and that's what our scholarship was there for, was to backstop I think 220 families, and that's kind of the raison d'etre for the program. How do you pay the teachers a living wage, have decent, safe facilities, and cover the operating cost of what it really truly costs to run daycare centers? And so we've put together, just like we did with Go Breck, some very smart minds, people that are very motivated to try to come up with a model that works and is acceptable to the community.
Gary, you've articulated an argument or a basis of why this is important to the community. It's a little different than maybe what do I call the social, the kids are our future type of thing. But comment on that, but also a little disappointment in who didn't apply.
True.
Right?
We start first with who didn't apply. Yes, we. We were hoping, well, let me step back. There's obviously different constituencies out there. And in different constituencies, they all have different views with respect to this early childhood education. And why should government be involved in helping provide tuition assistance? I think the first thing people have to realize is each family is expected to provide a certain percentage of their income toward child care. It's not like we're talking 100% tuition assistance or things of that nature. So it's need-based, but it's also based upon how much you can afford to pay from your own income source. And at the end of the day, we're probably going to have to deliver different messaging or educate in different ways the different constituency groups who all kind of approach this a little bit differently. We were hopeful, because boy, I'll tell you, I've never seen as many advertisements in the Summit Daily News for a particular advisory committee as I saw it every day I was picking up the Summit Daily News. I mean, it was there. And we were hoping that we would get some folks, not those that would just come in and say, absolutely not, this is a crazy program and government shouldn't be doing it, but rather coming in and saying, I can understand there's some importance here, but I really want to help everybody look at this hard and in a cold fashion, not just from a social liberalism point of view that, gee, it's the fair thing to do, but rather help us really look at it hard, look at areas where possibly there can be some central administration amongst all the child care facilities. I mean, maybe we're not talking lots of dollars, but nickels and dimes add up. And at the end of the day, you want to kind of take some of the issues off the table that are easy for people to pick at. And let's really get to the core issue. How important is providing child care so families can live in our community, support our business community, and really have that discussion and take all the chaff out of it. Also make sure that obviously they're safe environments, it's age-appropriate education, address those kind of issues, look at our rules and regulations and guidelines. They probably haven't been looked at real hard in several years. Let's look at them real hard. Let's make sure nobody's gaming the system. Those are the things that you really wanted to get a disparate group of people that could challenge those things and ultimately come to some conclusions that, okay, maybe we have to tighten up here or do something a little differently there. But at the end of the day, you take care of all, I call it the chaff. And now you say, why is it important? And the interesting thing is, the right-wing think tanks and the left-wing think tanks on early childhood education, they do agree. It is definitely beneficial. So then the question is, what role does government have? My argument, one of the arguments that I would use is that, there's a lot of folks that we're all here in Breckenridge because we love the town of Breckenridge. It's a real town. And when we did our marketing surveys, why do people come to Breck? Well, because you can let your hair down, you can be yourself, it's very friendly, I don't have to get dressed up, people are happy. Well, I say that people serving you in the restaurants or serving you in the retail stores or making your beds when you're here in lodging, they would not be happy. And it would come across to our guest very, very quickly if they weren't happy. Why are they happy? I think that they're happy and content because they can participate in this community, that they help make productive, that they help this thing work, bring our tourists and our guests in, because they're participating. Their children can take advantage of the schools, their children can take advantage of the facilities, they can use our hiking paths and bicycle paths and so on and so forth. And if we didn't have our guests coming, and they come because they feel they get a great experience and they're being treated well by people who are content and happy, I would argue that you might begin to really risk one of the legs on our stool here in terms of what drives our revenue base. We get the majority of our revenues from sales and lodging tax and RET tax, the real estate transfer tax. And if we wanted to continue to provide the quality of life here that we do for our locals as well as our guests, and we were not able to do that by our guests coming to town and spending their money and providing our revenues, and if we wanted to provide that same quality here, but our guests weren't coming to appreciate it and take advantage of it, well, we're fortunate that we get our money in sales tax, lodging tax, and rent. Where would you have to then go for your revenues to maintain a stable revenue base to provide and basically support the town of Breckenridge. You'd be talking about increasing real estate property taxes. And if anybody has to take a look at the revenues and how little we get from real estate tax and how much we get from sales, and if you had to start inverting that, there would be a lot of pain. There would be a lot of the gnashing and of teeth. And so I look at it, that's one of the arguments that I look at and say, hey, we need to protect the golden goose that lays the golden egg, and I believe that we do that by having an available and stable workforce that's happy and content, and they exude that enthusiasm and that happiness when our guests come into town, and when our guests will say, gee, I'm coming back to Breck because wow, what a friendly place. Or they'll go home at the cocktail party, you got to check Breck out. They are so nice. And we wouldn't have that if these people were traveling up over the passes, or they were feeling like, gee, I'm contributing to this community, but I don't get to use it. I mean, it's just human nature, behavioral. So I would like to see this task force, as they develop as they educate. You're not going to convince everybody to come on over, but I think there's a lot of folks out there that if they began to think about where would the money have to come from, I think we could start softening some people's views in this subject, and it wouldn't be because of social liberalism. And I hope that we're going to be able to do that.
Some good tasks for this group.
Yes.
Let's hope they're up to it. And if people are still interested, obviously the door is still open, and we would love to have some of those folks that maybe don't fully agree with everything that is being done today to share their thoughts and to help this group do good work at the end of the day. Gary, thanks for that. That's a whole different point of view than what we usually hear from the parents and the families.
Well, and we need a balanced approach in arguments, and hopefully, some people it will resonate with, and maybe not.
No. We appointed another group. Small group, very small, but very talented from what I understand. The new Cultural Arts Committee. This is kind of the nucleus of a future nonprofit, but the council took that next step along with hiring Rob, obviously.
Yes. We had commented earlier that a new Cultural Arts CEO has been hired by the town to do a couple things. One is we realized that all the money that the town was spending in improving its cultural arts infrastructure, everything from the Harris Street building where the Speakeasy Theater will be housed, to the Breckenridge Arts District, to the Backstage Theater, ultimately to the new Masonic Hall that the town purchased in the last year. And there's a few other things that are coming. And the realization was we're spending all this money and we're going to construct all these beautiful assets. But at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that we govern for success. It's no good having a beautiful asset if you haven't really set up the organizations, you haven't got the right horsepower with the vision and the mission and the execution to actually use those facilities. So we're charging Rob Wolf, we're asking him to increase the utilization of the town's assets, also to work with all of the cultural arts organizations to help raise their game and have them work more closely together in a synergetic fashion to hopefully they can do things together and start doing multiple events sponsored by multiple entities. And so the thought was, we have a couple earlier models. One is the Breckenridge Heritage Alliance, where many years ago that the town was in that business of caring and maintaining and constructing and improving our Heritage Alliance, our historical assets in town. And the realization was it would be a lot more effective if it was done in a group outside of the town of Breckenridge staff themselves. And that has been a very effective model, which the town funds annually. But it's got a great board, it's got a passionate board, and it's got strong executive director and staff leadership. And it's probably fair to say that they're doing a better job with those historic and assets than we would be able to do within the town itself, because our town employees are pulled in a zillion directions. They can't just focus 24/7. So the thought was also to create a cultural arts non-for-profit we brought Rob Wolf in. And this first year, 2014, it's pretty much staying under the auspices of the town. Town council appointed 2 council reps to work with Rob to help focus what are the initial priorities, where are the important areas to begin, because you can imagine a new guy coming into town, everybody wants to get his time, and everybody's got their thoughts and ideas. And so Wendy Wolf and myself were appointed by council to work with Rob. And already he's reviewing best practices and what the appropriate organizational structure should be for running the Arts District. He's benchmarking against about a dozen other communities across the United States and in Canada that do similar things in their Arts District to see what works, what doesn't work. And so at the end of the day, he can come to council at the end of April with an organizational structure and some staffing and marketing dollar needs and whatever. He's looking real hard at the Backstage Theater's request for enhancements to the Backstage Theater, which is critically important. So he's taking that on. He's also working with our Riverwalk Center staff in terms of what's going on internally as well as externally to the Riverwalk Center. And he's working with the half a dozen cultural organizations to pull them in and, like I say, get everybody working together. So he's been extremely busy. He is also with Wendy and I and starting to develop and think about a statement of purpose for this group. What will the goals be? So that we want to go out ultimately and begin to recruit board members for this new entity, which ultimately will become its own non-for-profit in 2015. Individuals that are obviously have different skills and backgrounds, just the way we have on our other boards, so that you get different views and a variety of opinion. But I think all of our expectations are, the time had come for the town to take a deep breath, really hire somebody, let that person really take charge 24/7. And we've also kind of let a lot of our partner organizations who use our facilities, where heretofore, some of them may have had a point of view that, boy, that really is my facility, even though the town is paying for it, building it, running it, operating it, and letting them know that those that are currently using our facilities, obviously, we see them as our lead tenant, but we want to sit down with them every year and work out scheduling. And whether they have some ideas or Rob and his new organization have ideas in terms of what additional events and programming we can put into the Aces and Spaces, that can be some revenue producing and maybe in small ways help the town start to generate some money in return for all the investment that they've been putting in. And interestingly, that has come across very well to all of these partner organizations. They understand. Okay, we'll sit down, we'll work out our dates. We realize we can come to you with new ideas, or you've now got Rob and with an entrepreneurial sort of mind, and if he's got some thoughts and ideas, then he's going to put those in those Aces and Spaces for the town. And I think the bottom line is everybody is so pleased to have someone like Rob with his background on board, and they are just using him as a sounding board for ideas and thoughts and collaboration. And boy, I'll tell you, so far it's been going very, very smoothly. I've been very, very happy.
Good. Great summary, Gary. Thank you. John, the council does an annual report to focus on its sustainability, which was a part of a plan that the community helped the council develop. This was a fairly positive report.
Yes. What
are some of the highlights that you can pick on?
Well, a couple of things. Since I'm the solar and bag guy, we were very successful in bringing to fruition 2 solar gardens, 500 kilowatt solar gardens. They both opened sometime this fall, I think probably around September. They are creating enough electricity to energize about 350 homes. We have done that with an organization called the Clean Energy Collective, and we have the opportunity perhaps to expand one of our solar gardens out on the dredge piles north of town, north of Coin Valley Road, and that was just a wonderful day opening those 2 projects. We've also instituted a we've instituted a program that is where our goal is to reduce the use of disposable bags. And those are plastic bags and those are paper bags. In particular, 2 mil or less thickness of plastic bags, which is a grocery bag, small bags you get in retail stores, etc. And we've instituted a fee of 10 cents per bag. So if you want the thin plastic bag at the grocery store, you pay 10 cents for it. If you want a paper bag, you pay 10 cents for it. We've also created, through the design of one of our local design groups, Wilson Lass, a Breck bag that is been very popular. We've sold many thousands of them. I think we just did our second order, and people are using that as a reusable bag. So we've instituted a reusable bag program, a fee on disposable bags, which we hope will decrease the usage of disposable bags. And then we've got the solar thing going on. 9 of our 11 municipal buildings are solar powered. So we think we've done some great new things for the community from a sustainability standpoint.
And I think it's great that, I guess it was in 2011, the town council, in collaboration with the community, decided to basically do a sustainable annual plan and report it out. And I look at it as it's like a report card.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're using a report card to evaluate just how well the town is following up on what it says it's going to do. Is it in fact accomplishing things and doing things? And as John said, we're addressing areas like, energy. Are we using less water as we're growing? And the answer is yes. What's our traffic congestion been like year over year? Are we getting more people out of their automobiles and they're bicycling and they're walking to work? And the answer is yes. How are we doing on adding some additional affordable housing units? How are we doing in our child care? How are we doing in our trails? All of these areas, how are we doing on our economy? How's our excise taxes? So we look at everything that kind of makes Breckenridge work or needs to be made to make Breckenridge work, and the vision that earlier town councils have come up with, and we measure ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a pretty honest process.
Right. And that's available on the Breckenridge.com or .gov website.
Good.
And it's very easy reading. And then you can, if you want to get deeper, you can link into deeper explanations, etc. So that was one of the goals of the Sustainability Task Force. And we're an ongoing group that meets about every 3 months. Yeah.
Right. So again, another great place for good information, the town's website, a place to check out these type of reports. Plus the press did a nice job at summarizing some of the highlights of that report. Well, it wouldn't be a Breck Buzz without a little bit of discussion about marijuana. But
from our own
marijuana. But we have had now a little bit of experience to see what's occurred, and some interesting data since the first of the year when stores opened. What are some of the things that we've seen?
Well, one thing we've seen is the first week or so, long lines at least the Cannabis Club on Main Street in Breckenridge. I'm not familiar with the 3 outfits out on Airport Road. It was very orderly. The police have said that there's been little or no trouble with the increase. Now it's allowable to buy retail marijuana. I think they, as of the middle of January, had issued 3 tickets for people smoking in public when they shouldn't have been. We as a council created a lot of rules and regulations on where and when you could smoke marijuana. It's not allowed on Main Street. It's not allowed at a town function like at the Riverwalk, etc. It really kind of follows no smoking rules too, cigarette smoking rules in many cases. So we've seen it as kind of a non-issue. A lot of anticipation about things that might happen, that it might be the work of the devil, et cetera. And it really has worked out in a fairly benign way. That being said, we're struggling with the banking aspect of the money that's generated with the sale of this retail marijuana. And an interesting note was we created a 5% sales tax over and above our city sales tax and the state sales tax. And for the first three and a half weeks of January, there was $1 million of sales of retail marijuana. And if you compare that to the medical marijuana industry, they were doing $1 million a year. We did $1 million in a month. So you can, the painting on the picture is really that people are wanting recreational marijuana. They're finding it, they're buying it, and for the most part, they're being very orderly in their purchasing of it and use of it. I think there's more to come. We really need to see the government allow the banking industry to take this cash from these cash-only retail businesses and put it in a safe place. I think we need to be able to allow these retailers to do electronic banking, MasterCard, Visa processing. And our police chief is worried from a public safety standpoint, something I don't think we really thought might be a problem from a public safety standpoint. We have these 3 or 4 retail shops with an abundance of cash, and they may be susceptible to armed robbery, some sort of criminal element that wants to provide protection money. So we actually passed an ordinance, a resolution last week, urging our federal government to get in line with the Attorney General's statement to ease rules and regulations on the marijuana retail industry. So it's been interesting. I'm pleased that our community has embraced this in a measured way, I think in an intelligent way, and our police department has done a wonderful job, I think, in dealing with something that really runs counter to their culture as police officers. They've done a very nice job. So I think it's working well in the town of Breckenridge.
Interesting demographic that we've been hearing anecdotally about who is our customer for the marijuana, both in terms of where they're from, but also the age group is kind of interesting.
Help me out on that.
Well, the data that we got was from the one downtown shop was almost everybody's out of state.
Right.
That is buying.
Okay.
So,
Mostly male.
and mostly male and in an older age bracket,
Right.
not young kids or 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, which is interesting. I wonder how spring break will be.
Yeah.
Maybe March will be, I think, very busy. We have seen a huge tapering. I've walked by the Cannabis Club half a dozen times since January 2nd, and no lines. But January 2nd, there was a line of 50, 60 people spilling out onto the sidewalk. And it was an irritant, I think, for the adjacent shop owners, an annoyance. And it was a big line. I mean, they were blocking the sidewalk on the east side of Main Street at about Adams Street. So, and I think, unfortunately, that particular retail establishment is poorly suited for lines of people. You have to go up a stairway that's only about 30 inches wide. The staff there was very professional. They were asking for IDs. They were educating their buyers about where you can and can't use marijuana. And so I was impressed with the ownership that the employees had. I was impressed with the young man who runs the organization, the Cannabis Club. So for me, it was very positive, but I do think the reality was it kind of overwhelmed that corner in downtown Breckenridge.
And we should probably point out that they will be there only through 2014.
September of 2014.
Because council passed the ordinance that we don't want recreational marijuana dispensaries in our downtown area, but rather outside of our downtown area, and quite frankly, let the market decide just how many dispensaries a community like Breckenridge or visitors can ultimately support. So,
Well, certainly more to come, but it seems like a non-event to some extent,
That is true.
and a fairly decent revenue generator
Yes.
if they're doing that much business. So.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Gary and John for joining me today for this version of Breck Buzz. Again, any questions related to any of the topics we covered, both at the town website, contacting Town Hall. You see these guys in the grocery store, at the post office. They're more than willing to help you understand any of the issues even more thoroughly than what we tried to cover today. And we'll be back again next month for the next version of Breck Buzz.